Grover Norquist, it's so wonderful to have you here. You're with Americans for Tax Reform. You've been doing this for a long time, a lot longer than I have. Frontier, we were talking earlier, just started in 2020, and you've been at this for a long time. So if you want to just introduce yourself, give yourself a little bit of background about the work that you've been doing, it's truly tremendous.
Sure. I got out of college in '78, came down to Washington, D.C., was the number 2 guy at the National Taxpayers Union, which was the only national group at the time. Did that for a while, went back to business school, came back down again. And when Reagan, with the Reagan election, when Reagan was doing his tax reform package in 1986, he was looking for someone to run the organization that would run the grassroots campaign for the Tax Reform Act. That's the one where we took the corporate rate down to 34. We took the individual rates down to 15 and 27. Wow, wouldn't it be nice to have those again? And so how do we do that? And so I was the guy on the outside who put it together, and we came up with the no tax increase pledge, because people said, well, what if we take the rates down and broaden the base? What keeps the rates from coming back up again? So we got 100 congressmen, all Republicans, and 20 senators to sign a pledge, the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. I will never vote for any bill that raises tax rates or broadens the base unless rates come down. No net tax increase. And that became so powerful that when Bush ran in 1988, he signed the pledge, as did every Republican except Dole. And they offered it to Dole just before the New Hampshire primary, which he was supposed to win. And he acted when Pete DuPont said, we've all signed the pledge not to raise taxes. How about you? And Dole reacted like a vampire that somebody just tossed a crucifix in his lap. And it wasn't a good sign on New Hampshire television. He lost. Bush came from behind, won the primaries. And then when he was 19 points behind, Dukakis, former governor, before I emigrated to the United States, I used to live in Massachusetts. So Dukakis had been my governor, and Dukakis was running, but Dukakis wanted to raise taxes, and Bush said that famous line that everyone only remembers the end of. It said, the Democrats will come and ask me to raise taxes. I will say no. The Democrats will ask again, and I will say no. And they will ask again, and I will say, read my lips, no new taxes. So he explained and described exactly what was going to happen, except for the last part where he said yes instead of no. And this is like, for young ladies going on a prom date, you've got to go no, no, no. No, no, yes does not work, okay? And Bush forgot that, never having been a young lady or something. So the pledge became very powerful, and in 1994, this is the map of who runs the country. This is 1932 to the yellow line, 1994, okay? This is who runs the House on the bottom, who runs the Senate on the top, and you'll see there are 2 little red lines right here.
Yeah.
2 times the Republicans won the House and the Senate in 62 years. We had one state, because presidents run the country. I'm sorry, Congress runs the country. Congress raises taxes. Congress spends money. Used to be only Congress starts wars. Now presidents can start wars.
Yeah, right. Some changes there.
Yes. But for 62 years, the yellow line is when 96% of the Republicans signed the pledge never to raise taxes.
Wow.
And since then, and kept that pledge, no Republicans voted for a tax increase since Bush talked a few of them into it in 1990. But from 94 on, when the Republicans swept the House and the Senate, 18 years they won the House and the Senate. 6 years, 1/3 as often, the Democrats won the House and Senate. So that decision by the modern Republican Party at the national level to be the party that will not raise your taxes. They may invade small countries they can't pronounce and lose Congress, but they will not raise your taxes. So that's the big shift in American politics over the last 40, 50 years. And holding that no tax increase at the federal level and the state level is a lot of what we do.
No, that's amazing. I mean, you guys have really been at the forefront there. In this conversation, it reminds me that there are some old trends that don't go away. And one of those that I'm really eager to talk to you about is this conversation that's proposed by some socialists, actually, even the past too, and that is capping credit card rates. Can you give us a little background on, Trump recently floated, I think, a 10% rate cap. But tell us the background of this. Is this a new idea? Has this been around for a while? Has it been tried?
Yes, Diocletian, the Roman emperor, he tried price controls, wage controls. Nixon had price controls on energy, on gasoline, which gave us shortages. And then when Reagan ended those price controls, prices went down, not up. Price controls told everybody, don't go look for oil. If you find any, don't pump it out. And if you found it and pumped it out, don't send it to anybody because the price sucks. And all of a sudden, we had more energy, more gasoline, more oil, and lower prices by getting rid of the price controls that were supposed to keep prices down. In Argentina, where they set prices for everything because they're idiots, were past tense. And they had controls on what you could charge to rent a house or a room as a landlord, and so they had rent control. And then when they got rid of it, all of a sudden under Milley, the libertarian free market guy who screams a lot and jumps up and down on sofas and things like that, which is really cool on TV, like Ted Cruz, but about taxes. And so instead of his girlfriend, the taxes have lasted longer as an issue. So what you did have in Argentina was they got rid of the controls, and you'd think that, well, prices for rent will go up, right? No, all of a sudden people who had an extra room that they might rent, that they were never going to do it with rent control, because even if they thought it was an okay price now, who's to say that the rent control wouldn't change and you'd be stuck with somebody in your house and you couldn't charge them more or even a reasonable rate, and you couldn't get rid of them because it set the rules up. So people stayed away. Without price controls, more people had more people to rent to, more people were willing to rent their houses, their apartments, their extra room, and prices went down. So it's not just a stupid idea, it's an extremely stupid idea. It's not a new stupid idea, it's an old stupid idea. Diocletian was a Roman guy, it was at least decades ago, and he tried them, didn't work. Hammurabi, I forget the guy's name, I never met him. He was like 1,000 years before that in the Mediterranean, Mesopotamia area. Again, a disaster. Price controls don't work ever in terms of doing what you wanted, both on wages and on anything that you want to sell. Because
one thing, I want to bring up there too, before we kind of get more into the credit card side of like the new modern proposal, I should say on this, is something that I find myself at Frontier Institute saying more and more often is that prices communicate information. And if you don't have that information, it messes with every kind of dynamic you have, whether we're trying to do rent control in New York or just any sort of price control. So continue.
Yeah. Prices are information. That's the important thing that makes a free market work. And when you put in price controls, you make prices lie. Okay. What's it worth? Well, it's only worth this much. That's a lie, but it's a lie that people believe, and therefore they don't provide as much of it as the economy wants and people are willing to pay for.
Absolutely. So this proposal by Trump, I mean, I think, a little going back here, we heard some proposals from Bernie Sanders actually to cap it on 10%. I think AOC's proposed this too, and Trump's floated this idea. Do you think it sounds like it's a terrible idea? Is that kind of where we're headed?
No, it's a very bad idea, and we're not headed there because all Republicans know it's a very bad idea. Here's the challenge. Trump finds himself in the position where during the previous presidency under Biden, inflation was up 21%. Prices went up 21%. People say we don't have affordability because when you throw Biden out, prices stop going up 20% every 4 years, but they still go up 2 or 3% under Trump. So the higher prices that Biden brought us are still there. So our job is and Trump's tax cuts and deregulation are to get us more growth so people have more income. You want things to be affordable, which means you want higher wages, A tax cut is a pay increase.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a pay increase, everything is more affordable to you. I get an extra $100 in my pocket. Everything I might want to buy is more affordable. Doesn't matter what it is. It's easier for me to buy now that I have a higher income. And tax increases reduce affordability because a tax increase is a pay cut. It's as if your employer said, I'm taking $100, you're getting $100 less. Well, when they charge you $100 in taxes, it's as if your boss cut your pay by $100. And that's the challenge we have. Affordability has been damaged by the Biden years. And we are in the process of growing a little bit faster now with the big, beautiful bill. And the last 3 quarters gotten more and more better for Americans in terms of GDP, the growth of the economy and people's wages. This is great. More will flow because of the tax cut. But this is when somebody gets scared, when the press comes and says, what are you doing about affordability? And somebody comes up to you, and Hawley, who's technically was elected as a Republican and ran as a Republican, it was decided that Bernie Sanders is too conservative for him. So he's taken every stupid left-wing idea. This is technically a Republican senator from someplace, Missouri, from Missouri. Sorry, I don't mean to blame Missouri for him, but he's from Missouri. And he's taken every stupid left-wing idea and said, this is affordability. Because he goes, if we steal money from people that we ignore and subsidize people that we hope to get vote for us, that makes things more affordable. Except, what about the fact that you had to steal the money in the first place? The taxes you put in to get the money that you subsidize somebody else discourages wage growth, discourages investment. It's very easy for someone on a TV show, a radio show. What are you gonna do? Well, we're gonna have lower prices. Well, how? Well, we'll pass a law. That works for half a week, and then all the bad stuff clicks in from that. So I think as we look at it, President Bush, how about President Trump, has worked as a businessman. He knows if you fix prices, it doesn't work, and the people around him do as well. But he does have a couple of Republican senators, the Senator Marshall from Kansas and the Senator from Missouri, Hawley, both pushing for price controls on anything and everything that moves. We do still have Rockefeller Republicans. We still have liberal Republicans in the modern Republican Party. They just go to church, own 2 guns, and think that makes them conservatives.
Yeah. I think you've done a really great job of laying out how we can actually increase affordability for Americans without going to the government and asking them to control and micromanage our life. What are the specific things that people would see? For example, I think you guys have published some good stats about what happens when people who are low income or have a lower credit score. What impact do they see if we did have a 10% cap? Can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you cap interest rates, one of the things that the folks who make credit cards and debit cards do is they cover for credit cards in particular, they cover for people with bad credit who get in trouble. If you say we're going to keep it so low, the only people you can trust to give a credit card to are people you know will always be able to pay you back, which means I've heard estimates that more than 100 million people would lose access to having a credit card, that this would be that devastating. It'd be maybe even a higher number, because only the people who don't need credit would get a credit card. And the people who do need credit because they don't have the money in the bank, and it's not like a debit card where it comes right out of your bank, your bank account, it would be devastating there. And we also saw when they did this to debit cards, people lost a whole bunch of benefits that were part of buy our credit card, and you get these free points and all these other things to help you through the day and save money. That all goes away. And you see people that didn't used to be charged a fee to have a bank account now do get charged a fee because of a bank. The money, there's a service to be provided. There's money needed. If they can't charge it on your credit card, they will raise it another way, uh, by saying, okay, you want to have a bank account with us, you have to pay for it. We can't give you miles. We can't give you bonus points. We can't give you all these other benefits that used to flow from buying our credit card or our debit card.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, an important thing to note there is prices and interest rates as well communicate information. And so, these are high risk loans essentially. And, I have a credit card that I have to use sometimes, and I use it sparingly, and I have decent credit. I'm still young, so I'm building that. But if I didn't have that, when an emergency's come up, and it's come up a few times, I'd be really pressed. I don't really know what I would do. And I think that's a huge thing that a lot of Americans feel if they rely on credit cards sometimes.
This started not just with Bolsheviks like Bernie Sanders and Hawley. It also started because the retailers, Walmart and others, said, I've got an idea. Why don't we get a law passed to drop the cost of what people who sell us stuff can charge? So we're going to have price controls on things we buy. Now, nobody wants, Walmart and Target don't say, why don't we have price controls on what we sell our products for? No, that's not on the list. They would recognize that as something between fascism and socialism. But on other people, it seems to be okay. Well, if you believe that the credit card companies were charging too much, and you're Walmart or your Target, you know what? You're a big company. Set up your own credit card. And some of these people do have credit cards, right? Set up your own credit card. Then you can charge yourself a lower fee to manage the credit card. But the answer is they can't do that because there isn't some price gouging going on. They just don't like the fact that they see this higher rate. They're not willing to subsidize people who, or protect against people who can't pay a bill. Mm-hmm. They want the credit card companies to do that.
Well, yeah. Are you speaking of the Credit Card Competition Act? Is that what we're referring to, or is that something different?
No, there's the Credit Card Competition Act that they did this to debit cards already. Mm-hmm. And now they're trying to do it to credit cards. But we've seen that everything they said about debit cards, when you regulated them with lower prices and so on, the study by one of the Feds, the Federal Reserve groups, did a study, and they said, you know what? We didn't see any reduction in prices that the stores were charging, which was what they promised they'd do. Oh, we could drop 1 or 2% price of everything. That didn't happen. And what did happen is that benefits that came with the debit card were taken away because the debit card people couldn't afford them anymore, and some people really like those benefits. And so now they say, having trashed debit cards, why don't we do that with credit cards? They didn't do credit cards first because they thought it'd be too damaging to the economy. So they started with a smaller one. And now they want to move to credit cards because the Democrats are not running Congress, they're not running the presidency, and they're not in the majority of Congress. So if they can trick the Republicans into voting for it and everything goes to Hades, they get their socialism, and everyone points to Republicans. That was pretty stupid. But I don't think at the end of the day, the House or the Senate will allow this to pass, but only because people like you are talking to and communicating with people in Montana and other areas to say, you know what, let's not do stupid. Let's not have price controls on credit.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a little saying here, and I guess it goes kind of both ways, but like free markets for me, but not for thee. And, if there's something, I went to school for political science. And so there was a lot of arguments, obviously, about, government and its role. And the common thing is, well, government wants us to reduce businesses want us to reduce government. And that was always the thing that was constantly said. And the reality after working in politics for so long and looking at history is that oftentimes business does want government to get involved. Sometimes they're very principled and they know better than that because there's negative consequences. But, sometimes they do want to intervene in the marketplace. And that's where we have to say, okay, we see what's happening here. We have to be careful, and we have to make sure that we're maintaining a free market and we have price signals.
Yeah. Now, too much government spending is always a mistake, regardless of what they spend it on and who walks away with the cash. And the same thing with regulations. Let's have less regulate. The best way to regulate the economy and to find out what the right price is to ask 330 million Americans, what's the right price for a blue shirt? Okay. And then they decide what they'll pay for it and what they won't pay for it. And people get rich trying to figure out, my price is too high. Nobody's buying my stuff. My price is too low. It all got bought right away and I don't have any more. You try and find out what the price is, the equilibrium price, where you can sell all your stuff and make enough money to make more of them. It is always a mistake. Every once in a while, you're right. There are there are businessmen and women who go, what if I could get the government to kneecap my competitor?
Yeah.
Then I could win. True, but it's wrong.
Certainly. Well, I'd be remiss not to bring up a little more directly too the Credit Card Competition Act we've talked about with the debit cards. And it sounds like this proposal hopefully won't go anywhere, but a little background for our listeners would be really helpful.
Well, we're back to guys like Hawley, and Durbin was the guy driving this originally, with Durbin, left-wing Democrat out of Illinois, and then Vermont's Bernie Sanders, and the lady from Massachusetts who used to be a Republican and then was making $400,000 a year as a professor at Harvard, claiming to be an Indian American so she could get some sort of special deal, which she did. And then she's the reason a lot of students have student debt, because she's getting paid $400,000 a year for showing up very infrequently and telling you things that anybody else could have done for free. I mean, how many people would have volunteered for free to teach at Harvard about those sorts of topics? Many people. She got $400,000 of your tax dollars. So they all got together and wanted to do with credit cards what they'd done with debit cards, and to put to regulate them, to regulate how much you can charge, and in the case of credit cards with interest rates. And again, this has been tried throughout the Middle Ages. It didn't do well at that point or at any point to make those decisions. And the House Republicans, I've testified against this sort of stuff at the committee Republicans run on financial services and so on. They're pretty convinced that they can stop this in the Republican House. In the Senate probably also as well. But there's always a danger that something happens and the political advisors to the White House or to the House say, oh, we have to do this to show we care and to get us through Sunday's news cycle. As long as we can avoid that kind of unforced error where they shoot themselves in the foot, it's such a bad idea that to do it would hurt you in the next election more than help.
Yeah. And to President Trump's credit, I think that there's a lot of ideas that he floats out there, and all of them, they're not all great. They're not all bad. It's a mixed bag, and he does seem to react to these things, and he does adopt some not great. So some policies I'm not super fond of, but a lot of them end up really well. And it's because he's willing to listen and see kind of the writing on the wall. And I think that's a good thing.
And just because he's put an idea out there doesn't mean he's committed to it. He's put ideas out there and people have said, well, how about if we did it slightly differently? How about if we didn't do it at all? How about if we did this instead? And he has listened. He likes to talk to people, who don't agree with him. He's listened, and he's listened to the markets. Every once in a while, somebody suggests something and the stock market goes down. President notices this. And that I think has been very helpful. He learns quicker than most politicians who go, I want to do this, I'm going to do this. And it's a virtue in not asking questions. Remember Romney wrote a book entitled No Regrets or No Compromise, or basically, I've never made a mistake in my life. Well, that's a heck of a way to go through life, believing that about yourself.
Yeah, no, I think right. It's one of those things that as soon as you actually engage with that kind of mentality in real life, you go, Yeah, everyone makes mistakes, and I think it's a pretty normal thing. We should be able to admit that. Well, kind of my closing question here before we tell people about how they can learn more is what other stuff should Montanans know what's happening in DC regarding affordability, prices, and that kind of thing. Obviously we're pretty far away from DC, and so we find out things a little bit later, and we don't necessarily stay in the loop. If you could just fill us in, is there anything that we should know?
Well, just keep remembering that the one big beautiful bill, the tax cut, was the original Republican Trump bill from his first term made permanent. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not 10 years out and it disappears, which is what the Bush thing keeps doing. Oh, got it for 10 years and then it disappears. And then you have to revote it. And the Democrats take out the best bits and only revote some of it. This right now, we are in the process. We have a $4 trillion a decade tax cut out into infinity. So the lower corporate rate, this lower tax on small business permanent, the lower tax on every American who pays income taxes. They all got a tax rate made permanent. Expensing, you want to buy a new car for your business, a new fleet of cars, a new truck or fleet of trucks or computers to make all your workers more efficient and effective and be able to earn more and get paid more. Well, you do that and we're not going to charge you for it. We're not going to tax you for that. You spend that money because it's gone. You've spent it. In the old days, you could only depreciate over 10, 15, 20 years. Now you expense it immediately. Makes it much easier for people to invest in making their workers more productive, which is how you get higher pay and a greater, stronger economy. All of these things very helpful. The Trump accounts that we put out there, they're for everybody. Anyone under the age of 18 can have a Trump account set up by their parents. You have to be an American citizen, and they set it up for their parents, their kids. Parents can put $5,000 in. Your company can put money into it as a benefit, like a dental or healthcare or parking, and they put it in. A foundation can put an unlimited amount of money in, and you saw that with the effort by Dell and his wife, Mr. Dell and his wife of Dell Computers, putting $6.8 trillion in for, I think, 24, 25 million accounts. So they're going to help start up accounts with some money in them, and then the parents can put money in each year. Now the government, if you have a child last year or the next 3 years, 4-year period, when your child is born, they get $1,000 put in the account to start it up. Okay, anytime in the next last year or the next 4 years. In addition to that, parents can put in $5,000. States can put in an unlimited amount if they want to. Foundations can put in an unlimited amount as well. So it is a wonderful opportunity. We're going to create an entire generation of guys who are 10, 15, 20, who can tell you what the stock market is because they watch it in real time in their life.
Absolutely. Well, where can people learn more about Americans for Tax Reform and your guys' work over there?
Well, HER is at her.org. And you want to come and see this map, which is the really cheerful map that I get to show to your governor all the time in Montana.
Yeah, show us. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, this is the map that says there are 8 green states with no state income taxes. Now, Montana has no sales tax, which is really cool. So I don't expect the income tax to disappear completely, but the governor's been pushing to get it down to a flat rate of 5%, which is huge. And that looks very, very good. And the yellow states, there are 16 of them. They are single rate taxes. A single rate flat tax is very good. Why? Because politicians like to divide people into different groups. High taxes on you, low taxes on you, middle taxes. Then they can divide people into different groups and mug them one at a time. With a single rate, a politician who wants to cut taxes finds it easy. Says we're going to go from 5 to 4.5, and everyone says good. And the liberals go, what about billionaires? Well, they're going from 4 to 3.5, 5 to 4.5. Let's do that. 5 to 4.5. Everybody's going from 5 to 4.5. Okay, you take envy off the table. That's what you do. Envy gone. Now we're going to go 5 up to 6. Whoa! No, you don't. You're going to want to get all of us. And proof of the pudding of how important that is that our friends in Illinois, Bolshevik, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, 2/3, both houses, Democrat, Illinois, they have a constitutional amendment They put in an income tax, has to be a single rate tax. It is a single rate tax. It's like 4.95. It's just under 5. You'd think with all of the hard left guys out of Illinois and all that stuff, they would raise that to 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, like New York and Vermont and Minnesota, and 15 like California. They're under 5. Why? Single rate. They can't face the people of Illinois, even with super majorities Democrats, and say, we're going to mess with all of you at the same time. And they go, okay, we're not. Now, they have other taxes, but they're scared to death of the flat rate tax. So moving to more flat rates, and then, of course, to zero. There are 12 states, the ones with little black dots here, where the governor and the legislature said, we're going to zero, and they've taken real steps. They passed a law in Mississippi, which will take it to zero as revenue comes in. Instead of spending it, they cut the income tax every year till they're at zero. Mississippi, Oklahoma, same thing. Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, 5 states that automatically click to zero. In the next couple of weeks, you'll be reading about South Carolina. The House has passed it. The Senate's about to. I'm sorry, other way around. Senate passed it. Nope. House passed it. Senate's about to. Too many states with too many houses and Senates.
It's a good problem to have.
Yes. The Senate's passed it. The House has passed it. The Senate's about to. That will go down to 1.99 and then to zero. North Carolina's triggering down to 2.49, and then they're going to go to zero. They went to 2.5 in Arizona, which is why North Carolina went to 2.49 to be just under them. And now South Carolina's going to 1.99 to be under North Carolina. We have a wonderful competition going on. Utah's agreed they have to go to zero, and they're taking it down. I talked with the leadership, House and Senate. They're committed to go to zero as well. So there are a whole number of states committed to go to zero, and 3 more that are committed to go to a flat rate while they think about going to zero. This federalism is the secret weapon, secret power, super secret power that free market, limited government, constitutional Republicans have going for us. Our ideas work. So if you put them in one state, everyone goes, oh, that works. Whereas the Democrats, with their national government-run healthcare in Vermont, they passed a law in Vermont to have single payer, just like Canada, right? They want to do that, right? Single payer. What they want to do to the whole country. It was so stupid and so destructive, Vermont repealed it. But Bernie Sanders and the other Democrat from Vermont, the 2 senators, they are the lead sponsors on imposing on America the government-run healthcare plan they know failed in Vermont. Same thing happened in Massachusetts with Dukakis. He was running for president against Bush. He said, I'm going to pass a bill, which was sort of a watered-down version of government-run healthcare, mandating everybody buy health insurance for every one of their employers, whether they wanted it or not. And then he said, I've solved the problem in Massachusetts. I want to take this to America. As soon as he lost the election, they repealed the law in Massachusetts because they knew it wouldn't work. They want to do it to America, but not to one state alone. Our ideas, school choice, single rate tax, low taxes, zero income taxes, concealed carry permits, which reduce crime. Our ideas work, and when one state does it, others go, I could do that. Their ideas fail. They can only do top down. We can do bottom up, and we can test our ideas and make them get better and better and better across the states. And then you could take an idea to Washington and say, this has worked well in 30 states. You might think about it in DC.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. I think, much credit to our governor and to our legislature for their work on
heroic governor.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that, that's kind of our motto at Frontier is like what we do in Montana matters, not just to Montana. If we have good ideas, they will spread and other people adopt them. And we see that happen all the time. And that's why we're a leader in some surprising ways.
You pass a good law in Montana and the other guys start looking at it. And what we do with Americans for Tax Reform, we have a meeting like you guys have where we bring all the various parts of the modern conservative movement together to talk. What are you doing? What's going on? What's going on? And then between state groups, people talk and say, oh, is that working there? Could I look at that, Bill? And it just really changes the pace of good change, positive change, good ideas moving forward, speeds up. when Montana does something and other states can go, oh, I like that. And then it can be in 20 states in a couple of years.
What we do matters, that's for sure. And I really appreciate the positivity there. Well, Grover, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. It's atr.org or is it .com?
atr.org. atr.org.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Good to be with you.